having you all in this second part of the Circularity Acceleration Training, which is at the same time also our second initiation workshop. So at the same time available to a broader audience. We are pleased to having you all here with your homework done. As you know, we will have a quick look at that, but before allow me to make a couple of introductory remarks before we go into the topics of the day and share with you some orientational orientational information. As you know, this course is a pilot acceleration training, which is a part of the Interact Alpine Space project titled Circular 4.0. A project refers to the Alpine Space and is managed by 11 partners, 2 out of which are supporting this very pilot implementation. The lead partner technology Park Ljubljana and SRIP Top, the Innovation Alliance, a part of Jožef Stefan Institute from Ljubljana, the partner managing the training process of the project. The pilot is hosted by the Circular Business Academy, and we are thankful to all partners involved, and in particular we are thankful to the Public Scholarship Fund of the Republic of Slovenia for the support to this these 2 initiation sessions. All this joint effort makes this opportunity unique and available to a wider audience free of charge. It's definitely a one-time opportunity, and it's at the same time a very precious process for all involved, not just I mean both participants and organizers, as this is a pilot which is going to be rolled out hopefully several times across the regions of the Alpine space. This is our second session, and let me just start by reminding you of some of the key premises of our approach. We are moving today from the basic concepts that we will use further on towards a pilot project. Today we will speak more about the digitalization and Industry 4.0 as a set of enablers for the circular transformation. We are going to approach the business model design with the focus on the unique value proposition. Secondly, we are aware that every firm, every organization is a story of its own. That's why it's important that we try out at how it looks, how the transformation looks in real life, and we are going to do this from here on at the level of either a concrete project that you will identify or a process of opportunity scanning and identification and evaluation. In any case, we will get to the end of this process with a set of presentations of your project or opportunity scans, so that we will be able to come up with a real practical output from the course. So we are going to try and tune the course to your specific needs, and I will refer to that several times today. As you see, we are now in the second week. The first workshop is behind us. In parallel, we have had the 2 parts of the operators training course, Some of you are here with us as operators. I hope that the most of you will actually decide to fully participate at the course, actively participate at the entire program, what means that you would, take the challenge and define a project or go into the opportunities scanning and also take part of the final presentation. Today, as you see, the topics that we have already announced, with quite a intense list of topics that we would like to dive into and discuss before 5 p.m. Let me remind you once more that there was this homework, and whenever you see I'm using this page to remind you that whenever we see the navigation icons on the right, there's something for you to do, either as in a form of a homework or through the Talent LMS platform, which supports the offline part of the activities related to this course itinerary. All the slides here are also available and are leading materials for the course itself. This was some more information for better orientation through the course. And let's go on right into the feedback from your homeworks. I thank you very much. We have received a number of questionnaires filled in. Honestly, not all have been processed because I've seen some arriving in the last couple of hours, and these have not been fully processed. But you will get reports, of course, also everybody, and also those who will perhaps have to redo the homework, redo the questionnaire, because we have seen some reasons why we didn't accept some of the reports. So it is going to remain there. It's one of the tasks that you have to complete in order to proceed to the next module. There are other speakers with us here today. As you know, the digitalization part will be taken care of by Miha Glavan, digitalization and artificial intelligence expert and researcher from Jožef Stefan Institute. Unique value proposition is the topic that is going to be covered by Christian Kreinhagen from InnoBoost, innovation strategist from InnoBoost, and the homework and feedback will be presented by my colleague Sebastian Žužek. I am going to invite him to take the word. Sebastian, I suggest that you take over the screen and share your slides in order to report the results of this class. We are going to discuss the results at the level of the entire class, of those reports that have come in on time. So Sebastian, please.
Thank you, Yuri. Good afternoon, everybody. So yeah, like you said, we're starting today's session with a short overview of some of the findings from your homework submissions. So to start with, let's take a look at some of the more essential statistics. Here you can see that overall, if you look at the average and also the number of front runners, your group is actually very similar to the CBA database population. But before we continue, I have to inform you actually that we received quite a few incomplete submissions, and those were not included in this calculation. And here's also one example with a non-existent business model potential. So those who received our feedback regarding the incomplete submissions, please redo the CAS again. So let's go a little bit more in depth with the statistics now. So compared to the population from the CBA database, the partial scores, so the scores for the business model potential and the commitment to circular transformation are really similar. In the case of commitment, actually the same. This means that we have a group that actually represents the population very well. And on top of that, we also analyzed the two new questions that we added to CAS 2.0 that are meant to determine actually the level of digitalization that is used to support circular transformation within the organization. And the average value of this variable is 41.3, as you can see, which is also a bit lower compared to the group's total CAS score of 45.4. Here are the two questions that I mentioned. Those are questions 2 and 9 in CAS 2. The first one is about tracing the origin of material inputs and outputs, and the second one is about the level of organization's digital maturity. You can also see the process of calculating this average. We normalize the scores of the two questions that are connected to the digitalization, and the last value we actually also calculated is the correlation between the total CAS score and this digital score, which is as expected high. So the more that you're digitalized, the more you're expected to thrive when it comes to circularity. And the value is actually, as you can see, above 0.9. So here you can also see the matrix. The red dots represent the units from this group. This will also be available on the platform. So you'll be able to compare your result and see how you did compare to others. And yeah, on top of that we also have another question that we wanted to highlight. As you can see, most of our group submissions are primarily focused toward circular support models, which are not explicitly examined in the Circular 5.0 project, unfortunately, but and also on the other hand, circular design models are the least represented, and yeah, that's quite expected as these tend to be the most complex. Okay, to conclude with, I would like to thank you for your contribution. But once again, I would kindly ask you to those who haven't yet submitted the CAS score, please do so. And to those who didn't submit a valid information, please resubmit your score so we can further analyze this group. So yeah, please choose an existing company and try to self-evaluate it as realistically as you can. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Sebastian. Very well. Let me just underline a couple of issues here. You can perhaps keep the slides on for a minute. It's really important that you complete CAS 0, so the assessment at the point 0. Why? Because we are going to try and improve your rating through the course, your assessment score through this course, and you will be asked to review your model once your project or your opportunities will be through. And as new reports will be sent to you, we will also update these statistics and the presentation, which will be, of course, available to all of you at Talent LMS, and you will be able to have a look a couple of days later for more updated information. I would also like to say that these scores are indications. The CAS model is an assessment model which can at its best show the indication of circularity. It's not a complete measurement, and even more so it holds for the partial aspect of circularity relevant digitalization score, as we can term it. So these are mere indications, and what we wanted to show is that overall, on average, this class was a little bit more kind of conservative in grading their own digital maturity in comparison to how in comparison to the average CAS score. So this is the feedback we have. The last remark perhaps goes to the distribution of the typology of business models that you are indicating, or that you've been pursuing in your respective organizations. It is quite normal that in this early stage, representatives of knowledge companies, advisories, and other support institutions are more inclined to enroll first particularly into the pilot course. So I see this as an expected bias, and in the future, certainly the focus of the CAT course will be definitely much more on SMEs representing one of the two transformational models, and not the support model as such. This is what we can reasonably expect. Thank you once more, Sebastian. I would suggest to move on, and I would like to ask now Miha Glavan to take the floor. The topic is, let's say, the other key aspect of the Circular 4.0 project, which is about the enabling of the circular transformation related to the digital technologies, and or as we often term them here in this project, also 4.0 technologies. Miha, please, the word is yours.
Thank you. As Yuri said, yes, this model will be about enabling the potential for circular transformation. So in this part of the course, I would like to point out how digital technologies and also more holistic digital transformation of the company can support the creation of circular business models, and also how digital maturity assessment, similarly as this CAS tool, can be adopted to support such digital transformation. So firstly, about more in general about digital transformation. Digital transformation can be performed in 3 steps. First step is about digitization. This is the step which transforms analog or physical information in the company into digital information, and also organize this information. The next step is digitalization. This step uses this gathered digital information for automation or optimization of individual operations. And finally, the last step is such scaling of these first 2 steps to cover the whole operation of the company. So all operation, their operation. And of course, when scaling, of course, it's important to note that such transformation should not be only focused on 1 or 2 specific objectives, but should be complete holistic transformation of the way we operate and also think, so to be more digital and digitally supported. So this consequently also drives to change of culture and workforce and management and everything. Okay, so of course, as you all probably know, such digital transformation of the companies have been in the last 10 years, let's say, significantly accelerated with the concept of Industry 4.0 and similar ideas. And of course, this is now possible, and it's more convenient for the companies and not so expensive due to the because of the affordability and also maturity of the enabling technologies. So it's always good when we're talking about digital technologies to know about the basic concepts. So here I have provided you some link. First one is link to one more general digital transformation tool where you can explore all the steps needed for digital transformation and also about enabling technologies. And I think other 3 papers are more general about Industry 4.0, and they will be also available on the platform. But when we talk about transformation, either circular or also digital transformation, of course, when talking about circular transformation, we have 2 main types of companies. So we can have new businesses that usually built around a circular business model, but also most of the companies are already positioned around their linear business model and then want to transform their operations. So in this picture shown above in the left side, so we have different steps. So if the idea is to iterate over these steps and then transform the operation not all together in one step, but to do this step by step to reach the end goal. So these steps are to determine where we are now, to envision where we want to go, define how to get there, and also to manage implementation actions, and then to continue these transformations. Of course, if we now observe in the context of circular transformation, of course, we first assess how circular we are, then we define which model we want to pursue, define and prioritize our steps, and then make some change and iterate this. And I think at this point, when doing this, as you probably know, also digital technologies can be an important enabler for the circular business model. So I think when doing this, all these steps, it's good to add another layer and at the same time also think about digital transformation of the company. So to think about where are we now regarding the digital maturity, and again, to check if we want to achieve some circular business objectives, how can digital transformation of the company and our operation support these objectives? And at the end, also how we can prioritize first steps also in the digital level, which steps should be the first and how to do this, and then make some concrete actions and identify some pilots. And in this picture, of course, we should not also forget about all other aspects, not only about implementing new technologies, but also performing different other activities listed here outside, which should be made hand by hand while transforming, not only digital, but also when doing circular transformation. Okay, this, as I see this course, of course, this course tries to guide you to do half of this circle. And it tries to learn you the way how to do this. And so you can further then evolve and iterate in this circle and try to be better and to really reach your final target. So here are 2 tools. You already met CAS tool, and similarly as CAS tool, also DMA, so digital maturity assessment tool, can be used to assess your current status, identify your strategy, and also to prioritize your next steps, so to define pilot or project or opportunity scan, etc. Okay, so first thing it's important to understand is that digital transformation is, of course, strictly speaking, not needed to be circular, but of course, digital transformation can importantly enable and disrupt your current practice. So technology can open new possibilities for new business models, or on the other hand, it can support or ease your operation, even if the technology is not in the core of your business model. So I think also the other thing that's important to be aware of is that there is no single approach for digital transformation. So it's no golden approach for all the companies. And so the operation of the companies and also needs of the business models are typically so different. So you cannot just simply say, use this technology and at the end you will be more optimal or you will optimize your operation. So I think it's important to know that the transformation should be very individualized and it should be based or should come out from your objectives or business model and then build around this to develop this transformation path and also that supports your operation. And of course, as said before, technology can support circular objectives, but most importantly, it can support enables the making some new circular business models, products and processes to be more circular. Okay, and I think it's always good to observe different practices or best use cases and learn from them. So in the next slide, I'll try to go quickly over a few good practices over different circular business models. For example, here is the digitalization in Industry 4.0 for enabling service-based business models. So for the circular use, this type of business model is the most strongly dependent on the technology and digital technology and the data. What technology are important here? So here it's important the technology can enable the company to directly access to the customers. It can provide them real-time monitoring and operational data of the products or services. It can and also it can provide them different algorithms to optimize the operation of their products, for example. Here are two quite well-known examples. First one is about Michelin. It's about offering tires as a service for trucks. So the basic idea is that they monitor the performance of their tires, and then they schedule the services, and also they support company or the drivers with suggestions how to drive more economically, to use less fuel, etc. So again, here technology is important because it provides them to monitor the performance, and also algorithms are important because they can optimize the performance, and also they can optimize the service operation, etc. The other one is about Rolls-Royce jet propulsion as a service. So they don't offer jet motors, but their propulsion of the motors is offered as a service. Again, here the use of technology is used to optimize the performance and also to reduce downtimes of the engines, etc. The other class is about improving the design. Again, technology can support the process of design to create more circular products, so more durable, more recyclable, easy to replace, more modular, etc. So one aspect where technology can be used is, of course, virtualization. So you can simulate, you can try out and optimize the design, and then you can also make 3D printing and create some prototype quickly. And then also there is possibility to optimize different combinations of the materials. So you can optimize the structure of the product. And also there is a possibility to learn from the operation. So we can see how the product is being used by the owners, and also to learn from this and improve your own design. And of course, it's important, these platforms are important for data sharing, for example, among different teams, so they can collaborate and also optimize this design process. Here I have listed some platforms that can use the data sharing. These are product lifecycle management platforms, and they enable sharing of the data of specific product, overhaul their product life cycle or part of this life cycle. And of course, when you have more data available, you can make more optimal solution, more optimal decisions, and also improve the whole product. Then we have also example here down. You can also have here links. We can take a look later on. It's about Whirlpool and PTC. This is also product lifecycle management tool, how they track the operational data and they use the data to make better design of the products. And of course, these simulation tools listed down, they can support now to make mathematical evaluation of the design of the product, so it can be more optimal. Okay, here is about improving production and processes. Of course, it's also important. So with these new technologies, you can gather more data, you have better traceability of the operations. You can use algorithms to optimize and identify root causes of performance deviations. You can have inline inspections of the products. You can exploit some synergies of the processes. So one output of the process can be input to another process. So one waste of one process can be input to another process, etc. And of course, here are some examples, for example, for zero defect solutions. So we can want to minimize the waste of the production. You can have solutions for industrial symbiosis or industrial urban symbiosis. So to reduce the waste or exploit the waste, and also about in different industrial cloud platforms they enable now to track and also to optimize the operation of the production. Here we have about reuse, repair, and remanufacturing of the products. Of course, there are different platforms that encourage to reuse spare parts, availability. They interconnect different stakeholders in the life cycle of the product, etc. And also you have different technologies supporting to enables that the traceability of the product data through the product life cycle. So you can get, for example, instructions how to dismantle and repair the products. You can get information what materials were used and which models of the product were used, so we can get spare parts, etc. So again, here are some examples. Here is an example of, let's say, augmented reality solution where you can get visual instructions to make quicker repair of the car, etc. And here is about 3D printing, so you can make locally spare parts, for example, and also you have some platforms for exchange that can improve this availability among different stakeholders. And then we have lastly about circular value recovery. This is another aspect. So we have about improving waste management. This is another aspect of the circular value recovery. Again, different platforms and technologies can play an important role to capture data and share the data among different stakeholders. So technology can, for example, be used to monitor waste, and you can then optimize bin collection. And then you can also have technology to characterize different waste, and in this way improve waste sorting and recycling. You can trace the path of the waste, etc. And here are some examples, for example, some processes to enable waste as a secondary raw materials. Here's an example for textile. And then you have this, another example is this platform D-Link, which is being built to share properties of different materials to identify optimal recyclates. Then we have this Concular company. This is building and providing digital platform for enabling circular construction. So before you demolish one structure, you already have maybe buyers or plan how you will reuse this material of the building. And then there is one platform as an example of platform to improve the recycling of the domestic waste, so we can inform and motivate people, etc. These were quickly some examples. Of course, you are motivated to check more examples. So I encourage you to explore for yourself for good practices. Here are 3 links, and this is a good starting point. You can also filter by different business model classes, so you can identify the cases that are more closer to you or more relevant for you. Okay, now I will move very quickly to the other topic. This is about this digital maturity assessment tool and how can this tool help you to steer and drive the digital transformation. Digital maturity assessment tool in essence is the systematic approach for assessing the maturity of the company. So this DMA provides you most important dimensions of the digital transformations, and it leads you through them so you can evaluate yourself and define your individual goals. So after positioning yourself, you can then identify your weakness and opportunities, and also define your unique strategy, so you can prioritize next steps, and for example also identify concrete pilots to be implemented. So in essence, DMA leads you through the main digital transformation dimensions and also different aspects. So you can think about this transformation and not to think only about specific technology or specific implementation technology, but to not forget also about different dimensions and aspects that should go hand by hand by this transformation. But as told before, each company is position of its own, so DMA does not tell you directly implement this technology and you will succeed, but they can only subscribe you which aspects are important, and then you can follow this, and then based on these questions you can build your own strategy. Okay, as I see it, DMA has twofold role. First one is of course about education and information sharing. So in order, when you do this DMA and read these questions, it makes you to think about, to disrupt your thinking, and also about start to think and realize what you want to do, or what you want to reconsider, what you want to achieve at the end. So in this first stage, here in first two points, when reading this DMA, of course you have to understand the impacts of technology and digital transformation steps. Then you have to understand questions, and this way you have to read something, you have to know the technology, you have to know what you want to achieve, etc. So this first part is about education, and maybe finding some support or consultancy that can support you to define the digital transformation path if you don't have capacities within your company. And the other part is about evaluating your current state by solving this questionnaire, and then also by thinking about where you want to be in 5 years. So what are your ambitions regarding these steps, let's say digital transformation steps, and at the end also to prioritize next steps. So what will be the first step to reach this end goal? So here is, for example, one very simple DMA where you have, let's say, different questions and different levels, and then you say, okay, I'm here, but I want to be here. Okay, so I'm happy, but let's say here, I'm here, but I want to be here. Okay, I have to work on this to really succeed, for example. Here's an example. So on this platform, we provide you some DMA examples. You can then try it out and see it for yourself. This is one example. I will explain in this picture what's here and how to use it. So, okay, this is one of 4 different DMAs. So at top you have the source. You can also check the original website of these tools, because they're very informative and gives you much more information. Then we have different dimensions. So these are listed here, and below there will be more of these dimensions. And for each dimension, we have set of questions and also set of levels where you have to pick one. So this is the description of these levels. So in this yellow, this is your evaluation. So you should write in the first column the level you are currently assessed and where you want to go. And when you do this, then you add, and you can go to the top results where you can see the summary of your results. So how to use this DMA to steer transformation? So I think first step is, of course, to educate yourself to understand all these aspects and also think about where you are now. So think about the technologies that are available and standards and enablers for digitalization. And in the next step, when you understand these dimensions, then you can use this DMA to estimate your current status. So when you think about where you are now, which technologies you use, and of course, when you understand this, then you can see this such, let's say, different dimensions, and you can see, okay, I'm here. So, and then in the next steps, of course, you also identify according to your business model where you want to go. So you identify in which aspect of digital transformation you should improve more. And then this way you can identify where is the biggest gap you want to further evolve or further work on, and in this step. So these are main dimensions, but you can also, of course, look into more specifics of this, let's say, one dimension. So this is the then third step. So you can see, for example, for product customization, okay, level of product data should be, I think here should be analyzed. So we should work more on this. So we should put more effort in this. Maybe this could be the next step for the evolvement. So in this way, this DMA can help you to really think about all these aspects, and also to think about what you want to achieve and how to support this with the digital technologies. Of course, there are several different tools available, these DMA tools. Here's a list of, I think, 10 of them. We provided you example of these 4. These are converted into Excel, so you can simply use it. But of course, you're encouraged to also see others and also to check the websites of these tools, because there are plenty of information, explanation also there. So how to select the best one? Here I try to provide you some support. So if we rank them according to the level of details they provide, or level of details they require from you to provide them. Here is from least low level of details to the high level of details, and also some DMAs are more oriented to the manufacturing companies, and others are more neutral, or maybe some service-oriented companies. So this can maybe help you to identify the most appropriate to your needs. And of course, different DMAs also cover different dimensions. Here is, let's say, union of all of these dimensions that it cover. And again, this is approximate overview of these 4 DMAs that we provided you. So you can really identify the best one that covers your operation in the most way. And of course, I would suggest if I move back to this picture, use first, these are quite simple one or not so complex one, but of course you can also select more complex ones. But if you're not feeling comfortable about these technologies, it's better to use some for the starting point, the simple one, and then progress to the more complex and detailed ones. Okay, with this I conclude. So I think on this platform you have these different DMA tools. So I encourage you to take a look and try some of these tools and try to imagine how this technology and your digital transformation could really support your business case or business model that you want to pursue in the future. Okay, so I think I have finished with this presentation. I don't know if we can have now questions or later on.
Thank you, Micha. Absolutely, yes. The time for questions is now. Dear participants, as you see, you are all enabled to switch on the camera and your microphone, and so you can ask your question straightforwardly, or you can also use the chat box. In either way, we will get back to you. Are there any questions, please? Also related to the CAS feedback, of course, were there any doubts about that as well, or do you need any guidance about that? I cannot see any hands on at the moment.
I have a question.
Oh yes, please.
Yeah, sorry, raised my hand. Micha, thank you very much. Very interesting. If you do the assessment and see that you're missing certain digital capabilities, what would you recommend? How to build it yourself, to partner? Do you have experience, or could you share some?
Yeah, I think it depends on the company and how oriented they are to the technologies to be covered. But if we are talking with SMEs, I think it's important to express, yes, that they need some collaboration and alliances with different partners, either with research organizations or also other companies that they can support them to reach this goal. So for the SMEs, I think it's impossible to cover the whole, let's say, transformation by internally, because they can specialize. They usually should specialize their workforce to understand the steps to be taken, but probably they will outsource several of these steps to be performed by outside partners. Yeah, because maybe bigger companies can afford to do this alone or to try to do this alone. But I think with these different platforms and technologies that are available now, it's not wise to develop everything from scratch. So it's good to have a starting point, and also these technologies are quite affordable and easy to use already.
Thank you, Micha.
Thank you. A quick follow-up thought. Perhaps, Micha, it's also important to analyze what it means in relations to the partners along the value chain. Whenever we do the next step in digitalization, for example, is this an important aspect to cover?
Yeah, of course. Within linear business model, I think everybody is looking for their own performance or their own use. But with this circularity and also with these new technologies, you can share the data, or you can share the information, and also you can support each other also along the value chain. So I think this will be very important in the future, and also technology enables this. But of course, this should change some thinking about, or this is, I don't know, payable service for the beginning, or this is really then, I don't know how this is more about the business model, but at the end, digital technology can support this not only to be to cover one operation, but also to extend this optimization and sharing along the value chain of this product. So, for example, this I know operations that were traditionally separated can be now combined, and also more synergies exploited.
Thank you. Very well. I suggest we move on. At this point, I would like to kindly ask our next speaker to take the floor. I would just like to show you, one thing. It's springtime, so I think it's really it would be a pity. We are representing the alpine space here, as you know, so we keep showing you nice pictures from the Alps, and Micha had one, and now I would like to show you, some pictures from the Netherlands, because our next speaker is from the Netherlands. You know Christian already, and Christian, please take the word.
Thank you very much. Also by this introduction. So I assume most of you joined last time on circular business modeling, and today I would like to share some experience about circular value proposition, especially how to define a unique value proposition. And what I would like to start with is again repeating also the need to innovate, because a circular business model on itself is not a goal. So what we always say, let's put people and planet at the heart of our innovation. So let's start there, and that's also how we start with unique value proposition creation. Also, if you look at the definition we are used in our book, it's about creating value, as highlighted here, for different stakeholders in your value chain. So that's what I'm about. In my presentation, I first would like to take one step back, maybe for some people repeat or refreshment, but the importance and how to create a value proposition, and then take the next step, how to do this in a circular way for multiple stakeholders. So let's first start. Remember, or you might have seen it also last week. If you look at the different steps to create a circular business, this is the step what we call the circular business model innovation. And again, maybe repeat from last week as well. It doesn't matter where you start here. It's not a linear approach. You can start everywhere as long as you at least make sure that you touches upon all elements, and that you keep on experimenting to validate your most risky assumptions. So if we look at circular value proposition business model, we always have a difficult dilemma. And this is Scott McLaughlin. He actually is also from Scotland. I met him. He's an excellent product designer and has to deal a lot with value propositions. And very often he got feedback from people from marketing and people from manufacturing and people from different angles and departments. And that they said, or their opinion was like circular design or circular products or services costs more and they require a higher investment. And that's very often a statement that's put there, but is that really true? And our experience is that as long as you start by adding customer value, it's about value and not about cost and so we have to take it to another level and also to receive it in that context. So let's start with adding customer value. And where would we start there? So again, if you look at the whole sustainable or circular business model, the value proposition is in the middle, and it makes value proposition circular by also having impact, of course, on people, planet, but also looking at your products and services and software, and of course also the relation of how it links to your circular strategy, as mentioned last week. So what's a value proposition? A value proposition actually captures the needs of your customers and look at it from a stakeholder perspective. The value proposition helps to ensure that we develop product services that are based on value and customer needs. So they're really based on something that people want and need from us, instead of something we have. Of course, you all have organizations or work in organizations or have a small company or middle-sized company, and maybe you're specialized in something, and maybe that was coming from something and is very successful. But the question always is, why are our customers interested in that? Why is this added value for them? And especially if you look to new innovations, it's important that you create a value proposition, because you would like to identify if there's a real business opportunity, but also make sure that you de-risk most of your uncertainties or assumptions at the front end of your innovation, because your value proposition is still something on paper. It doesn't cost a lot, except of thinking with the cross-functional team and involving your customers. But it's less costly to do that than you suddenly create a product and nobody who is waiting for that, nobody is going to buy it, or actually. So if you look at the value proposition, where should you start? And where you most of the time start is, again, last week, what's your strategy? And from the strategy, you should define what your business or marketing objectives are. Then if you have a look, the question is, where do you want to get your business from? So, and more specifically, whose behavior do we want to change? Because somebody already has a need today, and has already a product today, but you would like to enter the market. And the question is, do you want to attract those people from competition? Do you think maybe it's a new market, especially in the circular business space? Or are those people already customers, and maybe you want to add extra value? So that's the first question. Right? Okay. Next step after that is identifying what we call your target group. And it's important to keep in mind, what do I mean with a target group? That's what we call the end user. So who is going to use your product or service or software? Even when you're in a business-to-business operation, it's still important to think, or maybe you're delivering components, it's still important to think, if I deliver that component, where does it end up to, in which product, and who's at the end using that? So that's what I call the target group. The stakeholders are the people that have touch points in your value chain, that are maybe partners to create the end product, maybe others, but all the people that are relevant in your value chain. You have to identify them as well, because they probably you have to add value for them as well to make it interesting. Then the most difficult part of a value proposition, and I will give some examples in a moment, and that's what we call the end user insight, and that's the deep understanding of your end user needs and wants. And very often that's expressed in a dilemma or a pain point or something that's not working well today. And so a real problem. The value proposition that you're creating should really link to a real problem It's not suddenly a product or solution. There should be something behind that. Then, of course, in your value proposition, you have also to indicate what are the alternatives today that are addressing the needs of your user. That could be competitors, but also other options. And then the question is, of course, what are you actually offering in what we call a functional and an emotional benefit? The functional benefit is what the product or service actually does. So what does it for me? What's in for me? And the emotional is, if I deliver that benefit to my customers and stakeholders, how do they feel? And that's both important. Don't underestimate also the emotional side, because only in the function, people are also willing to pay for the elements. How do you give them a certain feeling, like to give them more confidence or to give them comfort or something like that. Then the reasons to believe is something that it's underpinning your value proposition expressed. Why should I believe you? So those are the proof points that the product is really working. And then, of course, and that's extremely important. Why is the value proposition unique? So why is it really different than what's already in the market or what's already used by the end user? I'm going to give you some examples. To capture your value proposition, there are different ways. There are many templates. There's the templates of the Interact you can use. I guess you have the link, and otherwise will be shared with you. You also have the value proposition canvas, but if you Google, you also have value proposition house. So it's just a form to capture your value proposition. Again, start with the real problem. Always ask, for example, 5 times why. Why is this really a problem? And then the question is, of course, what's your strategy? So at which phase of the value hill are you positioned? Are you going for circular design or more optimal use or after usage? And are you in the space of offering products, even system, a service, or a software? Because all those elements could fulfill needs. If you look at products and systems and their revenues, you can look at the reuse of returns, refurbishment or remanufacturing, both from a product as a part system. You can look at products with recycled content. And then if you look at the service, you have, of course, the performance or access-based models, the pay per or subscriptions. You can look at lifetime extensions or upgrades. And on a software perspective, you can, of course, deliver value by optimizing resource use, logistics, materials tracking, and also, of course, from moving from analog to digital. So keep this framework in mind, determine where do you want to play, look at am I in the product space, in the software space, or the service, or an overall solution space? And then, of course, what are the needs? And by understanding what the needs are from your customers or end users, the way to do that is really follow them in what they do. So let's say I will give an example later. I'm interested in transports and the best way to do transport in a fast and then in a sustainable way, for example. I would like to see how people like me are currently transporting. What I do in the Netherlands, for example, you already saw the pictures of Yuri. It's quite flat, so we're used to use cycles, also cars, trains, but what's my current behavior? And then the question is, of course, the first phase is when I'm triggered to use a transport, how will that happen? Is it because I have an appointment outside the house? Then in the actual uses of the transport modality, you can have a lot of observations. You can also find a lot of problems I have or some things I really like. You can also see where the competitors or alternatives play. And then, of course, you have the post-usage phase where you also have your observations. So this is a good way to map and to see how your customers are actually behaving or doing today. And then your next step would be also, okay, where do I want to have a role and what could I actually also solve? And one question could be there quite simple. I would like to have transport from A to B in a fast and sustainable way. So you could say that's quite a dilemma because sustainable could be, for example, walking or cycling, but that's not fast. So this is a great problem that could be solved. And again, going back to what I already said, depending on your strategy and depending if you're in the product, service, software or solution space, and also in the business to business or business to consumer, you can answer this in different ways. So there would be a value proposition in different ways. What this company did is they took cycles out of the water, because in the Netherlands you have canals and very often cycles are just dumped there. What they do, they recover it, the cycle, refurbish, remanufacture some elements, and by people have a distance to the working. And what they did is to upgrade this to quite an interesting price. But what if I would add an extra service, like in this example, swap feet or swap bike. Fiets is a bike in the Netherlands. What they do is offer you a subscription on a cycle, and they take care of the maintenance. If something is not working or is broken, they will replace a module. If you say I need a faster bike, you can switch to another model. If you see it from where they were, so you could say in a non-linear way, we are just cycling or just selling cycles. That means that I become owner of my bike. That's fine. I have a one-time expense with, of course, an expected sales, because you know how many cycles am I going to sell. It's mainly used on a certain channel. For example, I'm selling via distributors. I know that I maybe have some recurring revenue from maintenance, and it's very linear. I own something. But the question is, for the value proposition, do I really want to own it? Or is the function, the transport, more interesting to me? Why don't I want access to a cycle? What's done in the example of swap feeds? Those people don't own the cycle. And what's the advantage for you as an organization? Suddenly, you have monthly recurring revenues. You have a more tighter engagement or relation with your customers, because you have this subscription, but you could also contact them and say if they're okay with that. So it's not just a one-off. You still have contact for maintenance, replacements, and other extras you would like to offer. A big advantage that there's always a cycle available for the customer. And what's important, you're not steering just for transactions anymore, financial one, but also for customer ratings, because you would like to have your customers happy. And your question would be also, which additional service could I offer? Maybe I'm also interested in sometimes car or car sharing, sometimes in the train, sometimes in another means of transport, in a taxi. So why wouldn't I add business value by offering mobility as a service? So then suddenly I move from a product selling cycles to access to cycles to access to mobility. So what's the, let's say, circular advantage? You get an improved utilization rate of cycles. There are more people that are using one cycle. Of course, a lot of resource reduction. And at the end, that's an assumption here, you will take back the cycle and you can reuse to put new cycles or offer new cycles, or maybe reuse certain materials. Then a question could be, another example for a value proposition would be, I want clothes for my baby that's growing. But what I don't like, and that's my dilemma, that every time the baby is growing, I have to buy new clothes, and they're done, and yeah, and maybe I give them away, or they are in a container, especially, for example, in the Netherlands, there are too much second-hand clothes, so they will burn it now because there's too much. And that's not what I like. If I would like to have a more circular, sustainable behavior and business model. So if I'm an organization, how could I fulfill this need? And in the example of Circles, they offer a subscription on baby clothes. So, and then going back to your customer, it's not only had a need for just the baby clothes, it's a need for having convenience, because I don't have to shop every time. I also don't have to think and worry about what's happening after life. And every time I get the right size for my child. So what would that mean for your value proposition? You're going from a single interaction with parents wanting safe and good quality baby clothes to building long-term relations or longer-term relations and timely responding to the parents' needs. From just capturing single transactions to capturing long-term values, because again, you get subscriptions, it's about customer loyalty, and of course with lower resource usage, because we know that the baby clothes now suddenly, if we take them back, they will be washed and they will be put in the market again for subscription. That's at 8 to 12 children will use it instead of maybe 1 or 2. Then we are moving from offering organic baby clothes without harmful chemicals to more organic clothes that also will help further in development of the children and help parents also to save time, money, and resources. So basically we go from a linear value proposition to a circular with a clear impact, resource reduction up to 80%, lower consumption of water, lower cotton consumption, and less CO2 emissions. So I think 2 good examples of a circular value proposition. And then the question and also warning is that it will impact your whole business model. So in both examples, your customer relation will change, that you will see, and you also see that your channels will change, and maybe first you sell your cycles via distributor. Now suddenly you're going to have a direct relation with your customer. Your revenue streams will change, also your financial impact. So you're going from one-offs, you buy or sell something, to suddenly subscription. That means somewhere your assets should be on balance or from a partner. So that has implication for your cost structure, but also for your that you suddenly need partners. So in the example of the baby clothes, I suddenly need reverse logistics, was not in the core. I suddenly need also digital capabilities, because I want to track those clothes and track where they are. Different resource usage. I also need other infrastructure, and also my whole business model and organization will change with regard to activities. So what you see that with value propositions and the related business models, that you really have to think this through and think about starting with the customer needs. But then if you create a value proposition, including business model, what do I need from enablers, like the digital elements mentioned by Micha, or other elements that I don't have today or don't own today. And these are could be a risk, could be also an opportunity, but at least you have to mitigate that to make a step there. Then the step towards value propositions for multiple stakeholders, because I gave two quite simple examples where you have maybe a one-to-one and one to a three relation. But if you look at your value proposition and also your position value chain, you have to see which other stakeholders do I have to involve, and for which other stakeholders am I actually creating value. You can use this very easy tool where in the middle you put your purpose or existing value proposition. That could be product, service, again, solution. And then the question will be identifying who are you dealing with. So with partners, where is my manufacturing, maybe somewhere abroad, who is working there? Do I have to deal with municipality, with investors? One customer, maybe multiple customer. What about the environment as a stakeholder? What about society as a stakeholder? Of course, employees, not only my own employees, but also if I outsource elements. So those are things to have a look at. And then the question will be every time, what's the value captured today or intended value captured? What do I miss or destroy by offering that? And you can ask this question for every stakeholder. And then the last question is, if I could solve that, how would it create two new value opportunities? And to give you here an example of a baby stroller, it's a baby theme today, basically. So in the here in the heart, there is a proposition. And then for different stakeholders, every time we are asking, what's the value I destroy? What's the value I miss? And what would be new opportunities for those different stakeholders? So there you create a value proposition that could be unique for different stakeholders in your value chain, including society and the environment and that impact. And then, of course, you will create on one side risk, on the other side quite some assumptions, because you don't know if people are actually interested, for example, in a subscription. And already mentioned last time, that's the way where you could say, I am going to test that, validate if they're really interested, my customers, yes or no, tweak it and improve my value proposition every time, up till the moment where you say, okay, this is interesting to enough to create a new product, a service, a solution, and to bring it to the market, so basically. This is about the value proposition. There are a lot of assets on our website as well, including the value map you can download, or you can send me a message if you need any support there or need templates or something else. Are there any questions with regard to this?
Yes, Christian, I have a question.
Yeah.
So, I would like to ask you from your experience if there was, what are the real life cases on when one business transforms its business model to circular. So how is this? What's the consequence on the customers? So are the customers do the customers change, like the profile of customers change, and do maybe the company gets more customers or even less? Because maybe we are used to this subscription for bikes, but not yet for other things like washing machines and so on. And yeah, I know you mentioned that first it's a pilot project, but so maybe the business really carries out as a side project first, so that they still continue their own, partially their own conventional business, and partially part of the products are sold by in this way. And also for the, I'm also interested, like for the marketing, like do companies use this their efforts for the circular economy in marketing, and how this influences the customers. Because from my experience here in Japan, the SDGs are very popular. So they really use these SDG goals to really promote what they are doing for, I don't know, sustainable production and consumption.
Okay. Thank you very much. Very good questions, Vesna. So there are a few questions. Let's first start with your first one, the customer profile change. Yeah, sometimes they do. So that's why it's important to determine which customers are you aiming. Are that the same customers you have today? Do you see a new source of business? So that's, and the other thing is that the need of those customers could be very different in different regions. So my assumption is that in Japan, there are different needs than, for example, in Slovenia or Italy. So it's important that you also realize that if you create a value proposition, and then the question, had some examples are pilots, some not, like the bikes that's already scaled up, the baby clothes already scaled up as well. So those are skilled up businesses, but they started, or some of them indeed more in the traditional sense, and especially bigger companies first started as something separately, indeed, because they realized they cannot execute. For example, some big companies have a big problem in subscriptions because they're not used to that. Their financial systems, it's too complicated. So then they indeed first run it via a partner before they set everything in motion themselves. So they have a lot of internal barriers as well. So indeed, that's very often recommended. Anyhow, also if you're a small or medium-sized company, first try to really grow through the 10 steps or experiments and validate your assumptions before you really say, okay, we are only in circular business. Fully circular business, and we leave our, let's say, traditional business. So I wouldn't recommend that, indeed. Then the question about marketing. Yeah, there are different, I'm happy to hear that in Japan that resonates back. From my experience, it's not always appealing for people. Some people sometimes are not interested at all in sustainability, but they're still interested in the subscription model, for example, although it's and maybe also the company is taking things back or reducing materials. But that's why it's important that you really look at the needs of the customer and what you're going to communicate there. Personally, I think it's strong, and that organizations should be also proud on that to really make that clear. But the question is, of course, is that the need of the customer? What a mistake that very often happens, that people think that the primary benefit is a sustainable or circular one, and that's not true. People, for example, with the baby clothes, they like convenience, like I don't have to shop. Maybe that's more their needs than, and there are only limited amount of customers that saying I don't want to throw away those baby clothes. They're more care about the safety of their baby and nice clothes and convenience that they don't have to shop, then that's used 10 times. So there you have to be very careful what you're going to communicate or do in your marketing, depending on your target group.
Thank you so much, Christian.
Does that answer?
Yeah, very well. Very well. Thank you.
Thank you, Christian. Thank you, Vesna, for your question. There's, of course, still plenty of time, ladies and gentlemen. So any questions are welcome.
If not, then I would have more questions.
Go. Please.
Regarding costs.
Yeah.
So now the cost partially has partially integrated also this digitalization maturity.
Mm-hmm.
So I just would like to know if there are different companies or different profile companies, like they have different services. So how they can maybe not explore this digitalization at fullest as like one big industry. So does this class has any differentiation between these different companies, or like any correction factor in this model?
Maybe that's a question for Micha.
It's for Yuri, I guess.
Oh, for Yuri. Okay.
Yeah, sorry, Christian.
Yeah.
It's...
You are asking about a differentiation related to the digitalization, right?
Yes,
to the digitalization aspect.
But it can be digitalization, but also other things like secondary materials. Maybe some don't need the secondary or cannot use the secondary materials or so. So how, based on different types of businesses, how can we differentiated in this model?
Yeah, this first of all, this model helps us understand indications about circularity, right? And examines two aspects. One is the circularity level of the target business model a company is pursuing. Every time we talk about the business model we are pursuing, we are describing the full potential, basically, right? So, this is what we assess, and we assess it through different stages of the value chain. Then the other aspect is how much we are currently capable of exploiting this potential that the current business model actually can reach. And this is termed the commitment, our current commitment, our current level of commitment. We understand the importance of digitalization, and thanks to the experience through the Circular 4.0, we managed to include also questions on both sides to the digitalization. So if we take out these questions, we get some initial indication about that. With Micha, we were also thinking, how we could actually relate a digital maturity assessment with the class, right? So if we want to have a better, let's say, a better grounded and more complex answer to the question, how digital is your company, then of course we may reply on a basis of a digital maturity assessment carried out, right? So this is a little bit where the link comes from. So this structure can help us understand very well how to approach the company, where to start, and or how to build the next step in this process, where to look for innovation opportunities, and so forth. But the companies are, as we have been repeating, every company is a story of its own. So we are aware that whenever the innovation should happen, rather, let's say, at the level of product or service design, then the approaches will be totally different. And also the role of digitalization can be very different in this stage. And the same goes for the product use, the same goes for the value recovery, and so forth. So from this for the CAS model, we can, apart from the overall positioning, the score, and the partial indications, we can also design a profile, which is a profile means that we can understand, from which part of the value chain the score is higher. So this means that if a score is higher from if the higher grades derive from the area that examines the initial part of the value chain, then most probably this company has been pursuing rather, the design business model. I mean, the business model based on product design. If it's more rather in the middle related to the product use, then it might be use optimization model, right? So this helps us differentiate according to this very typology that we refer to through this course. So it helps us understand better how to go on from our starting point, and from there on, every company is a story of its own, and should navigate through the, let's say, 10-step process that Christian described last time, and should find its own unique value proposition according to the problem solution fit. What means that many times a why question should be asked from very many aspects, and on the other hand, the answers should come from a very good and deep understanding of the clients, first of all, those who are really end users, and particularly hard users and early adopters who can provide the best answers to the pains, as Christian said. So it's definitely apparently like a model that is one size fits all model, but it's really about indication of the starting point, and the approaches should be very very differentiated. We cannot expect that that a company using a design model can be can undergo a very similar path than the optimal use when the optimal use model is pursued. And also the digitalization has very different effects. Some models can be still circularized without substantial use of even at mid-level of the digital maturity, but in many cases, and over time, the digital component proves itself as a great enabler, especially when we also recognize the need to of synapses between partners along the value chain, and Micha addressed this quite well. Micha, if you want to elaborate on that, how to differentiate among different levels of digital maturity, please get involved.
Yes, I think these results, of course, let's say what gives you the DMA should be taken with some kind of consideration of your specifics, because of SMEs, I think they don't target the whole digitalization of the whole operation, because for them this is not doable or financially sustainable. Probably they need to really decide which parts are really important and which parts are supporting their core business and improve their operation. So I think we cannot just say, okay, from 0 to 5, it should be, let's say, considered in the aspect of where they want to go. So where is their goal? So they have to really individualize their own objectives. And of course, DMA can be used as an input for, let's say, CAS regarding this, I think, question 9 or something, which is talking about the general digitalization level. And but again, this should be really reconsidered in the aspect of objectives of the company.
I have one question, if I may.
Bojana, please.
I would just like to ask both, actually, Christian and Micha, to provide us one example, maybe from either side, on how to integrate the digital maturity assessment into the process of the value proposition, because they both nicely showed the processes, how you do the value proposition in a company. But I would like to see more examples, maybe how they see that the digital maturity aspect could be added to the exercise of doing the value proposition in companies, and maybe even ask some of the company participants how, in a concrete case, how would they start producing such value proposition.
Yeah, very good question, Mariana. Thank you very much. And with regard to the value proposition, when to start that, I would say as soon as possible, really at the front end of your innovation. As I said, it costs not a lot of money, and it saves you a lot down the further before you make big investments in product, service, or software. Where would you do an assessment on any capability, including digital, is as soon as, for example, in the cycle or in the baby clothes, as soon as you create a new value proposition, say, okay, we would like to do a subscription, we would like to do it this way, we have our logistics in place, transactions. So if you have thought that through, that's the moment where you would say, okay, what do we have today and what do we need? Because at that moment, you still have time to say, okay, if I see a gap, then I can reach out to a partner, or I can build it myself. Maybe I can attract people or hire people, or things like that. So I would do that as soon as you are done with your first value proposition. Have quite a good idea how you would like to do it, because then you have your promise ready, and then the question is, what does it mean for your execution? Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does in part. Yeah, it's more thinking process, and then after you decide whether with what customer need you want to satisfy, basically.
Yeah.
For your own contribution to the world.
Yeah.
Basically, then you start thinking which digital systems you will.
Do you need? Yeah. Yeah.
I get it. Yes. Thank you very much.
Micha, anything to add here?
No, I think I agree with this. Yes, I think, yeah, it's always good to know where you are good at and where you lack some competences, let's say, or some digital support. And I think prior analysis of digital matureness can give you some rough estimation where you are. For example, if you want to use optimal use and you don't know much about data collection and don't know much about analytics of how your product operates, let's say, then it's hard to start. But if you know where you are and you know that you're good at some point, then I think it's easier to build on this and also to align your business model in this direction. But otherwise, yeah, of course, digital technology should follow the good ideas or some value proposition defined before. Okay.
Thank you. If I may add an example from my quite intensive past experience, Bojana, to that, and maybe also referring to some of the points that Christian has raised. He said that SDGs, the fulfillment of SDGs may not be the strongest appeal to users, actually, to decide to switch to a new value proposition. So let's imagine newspapers. It's quite clear that moving away from paper, it generally can provide a significant positive impact on the environment. But just as such a proposal to move to the internet itself is not enough, because there's a strong habit behind, a strong reading habit, and something else has to be done. And when publishers start shifting and developing a digital offer, they face a number of challenges, and a long process of digitalization normally follows, which tackles every bit and corner of their organizations. Let's just imagine how the processes should be overhauled, and how job descriptions change in such a company. And certainly the digitalization process is extremely intensive. In at the end of a year-long process, such a successful company will have ended with a completely different relationship management with their users but also suppliers. Of course, there is no print house all of a sudden if you go fully digital, and the subscription collections happen in a very different way, etc., etc. And the overall experience with readers is totally different, because 30, 40 years ago, newspapers represented quite a good part of reasons why we browse the internet today every day. And this old-fashioned product is totally away today. So we still have paper newspapers, but they are, even though today they are very different. So what is left from the former newspaper is a very changed value proposition already. So and of course digital contents offers new possibilities, and that were unprecedented on paper. So this is, I think, if we just try to bring your question down to a specific industry, we see that on this particular case, which was very disruptive, of course, on digitalization brought significant disruption to newspapers, even much more than books. You can see, and you can observe this even from the aspect of circularity, or more generally from the aspect of sustainability. So we see that digitalization actually is a decisive factor on at many steps, and also the value proposition actually evolves through this complex and year-long process. So I believe, and this is a question that I would like to refer back to Christian, the codification of the value proposition is a comprehensive exercise, but it is not a one-time exercise, right? This is actually a summary of every stage that we make, right? In our maturation process.
Yeah, it's a very good point, it's indeed an ongoing process, because you get always new insights on your customer, indeed, for example, on the digitalization, on what you can or what you can't, but also how you're going to earn money. So you're continuously improving. And of course, with real data, because that's the best way to validate that. And at the end, you would like to have something in the market, and then you could also still have new insights. And referring back also to Vesna, if you're in Japanese market and have a value proposition, it could be different value proposition than in other markets, of course.
Right. Very well. Any other questions?
Yes, I have one question.
Maida, please.
Oh, I would like to remind you of the question that we had last time. This was the Pandora box question, and I don't think I don't remember who actually proposed this question, but one of the participants. But I think it would be good to actually answer this question. What is and I think the question was, what is the difference between the ISO 4000 standard regarding the circular economy principles or circular economy?
Indeed, Giga had this question, and Christian found a great report on that, a document. We shared it with Giga, and we can also send it to all of you. Maybe we can upload it to the platform. We will later. I will talk about metrics, and we can get back to this question there if you like. And go deeper into this debate. But let's start to discuss it right now. Standards are verified and adopted levels, right, of certain process or performance related categories to which companies adhere whenever they adopt a certain standard. But so this means that if our processes, for example, are capable of a certain level of let's say fresh water recovery, then of course we adhere at some standard, which is commonly adopted in the world and is verifiable, and so we can inspect the compliance with the standard from the outside. So we've got a number of standards of any kind in the world, and they mostly help the standardization of products. They help fit the trucks fitting into the lanes on the highway and many other things. And this is also how we can fit within the environment and the society in terms of environmental standards. So not being an expert on standardization, I can say from experience that of course standards, I mean, the ISO 9000 standards, we know, are the most widely spread standards that enable companies to work with each other all across the world. Whoever has got an ISO 9000, we know, complies with a number of procedures and practices being carried out at the similar way and at the same minimal level of process quality or performance quality. So in the very same way, ISO 14000 are standards that companies can adopt in order to certify their compliance with environmental aspects. When it comes to circularity, and our very challenge here, we are focused on how to innovate at the level of business models in order to increase our firm's circularity. We know that the firm's circularity is something that we can assess, that it's not something that is one size fits all, but conceptually we understand the degree of circularity of a firm as the ability to what extent such a firm can be integrated into the circular economy and not into the linear economy. This can be assessed by a number of criteria, and some of these criteria can actually be standards. Then we can, in some specific cases, we can use ISO 14000, or we can use, many other measurements in order to demonstrate that that level and measure this, because we know whatever we don't measure, we cannot really manage very well. So standards from this standpoint can also be used as a part of the metrics for the circular transformation, but they alone are definitely not enough to trace and monitor and succeed in this endeavor, because the endeavor starts, as we have seen somewhere else. It starts with strategic questions related to the company's purpose and vision, and the long-term orientation that drives us away from risks that we may be exposed to, linear risks, and it drives us through the management of circular risks in order to position better in terms of circularity. I don't know if this makes any sense, Maida, but please, I would appreciate your feedback.
Yeah, thank you very much for your answer. Yeah, I think it's adequately answered. So yeah.
I will discuss a little bit more the metrics aspects, because from now on we will go into the project template. We will discuss how to actually approach the project, because this point we are actually acknowledging that, again, that every company is a story of its own, and so every one of us should now try to take a look at opportunities at the level of our respective firms represented here. Christian, I would like to thank you very much for your lecture and debate, and please stay with us for the rest of the course. I was a little bit afraid that Maida wanted to say that that nobody asked about the time. We are running out of time, but I would like to ask you for some more patience, and it will pay off. And we will try to, not run out of the time frame for too much. Let's see into this important challenge, which is how we are going to present our project. Once more, here are three reminiscences from the Dutch landscape. This is one way we can travel these days, to look at photos from better times. And we are going to discuss now how to choose, how to trace our transformation path, and how to set up a pilot project. And I would like to introduce a template for that. We said the first question that we should address is whether we have a project in the company already which can possibly, fit that, or a project in a pipeline, a project that has just started, which is in a relatively early stage. So if the answer is yes, then our path will be a little bit different from the situation in which we are starting afresh. In any case, we have taken one learning with us from the previous Christian's lecture. First of all, we should de-risk. We should really align our expectations with available resources and exposures, and be clear on what we want to get out of our experimentation stage, right? Because this is where we are headed. So if we don't have a project readily available, and that could be assessed from the circularity standpoint, whether it would be some use to pilot on that project, then after de-risking, we can examine a relevant area of opportunities, define the circular transformation focus, evaluate benefits and risks, and finally present the project briefs of circular transformation projects. We will see how it should happen. We know that in 2 weeks' time you will have at least 5 minutes presentation, each of you, to present that, and at least 3-minute question time for sure. I guarantee. I'll try to extend this timing so we will be able to discuss this really well. And on the right hand side, there are some questions that can help you understand how to go through that. First, of course, after conceptualizing and de-risking, deciding what is our stake at play, we should organize a collection of initiatives and sort them out and involve all relevant stakeholders. Then next, we should prioritize. We should set criteria according to which we will, one criterion could be the availability of resources. Do we have enough resources or not? If not, then we will eliminate the idea, and so on. And once more, why we are doing this? If it's out of the purpose, then we should perhaps not go into this. Then we should select the best ones and design project briefs. We cannot, I mean, we will have those who are luckier, who have a project, they will go into the full presentation of the project. But if we may have selected, 1, 2, maybe even 3 ideas, it would be good to conclude this exercise with a clear project brief. This means a good problem solution fit that involves a clear identification of whom this is intended and why, what are the needs that are going to be fulfilled better. And of course, we should discuss among ourselves what risks we are going to avoid in terms of what linear risks we will avoid, which risks are going to be confronted and undertaken if a project is going to be further elaborated and accepted. So where to start? Let's go and examine the areas of opportunities. We should really examine our business environment from technology, society, sustainability and resilience aspects, definitely the market and the cost side, the volatility of supplies, for example. What are the current risks, what is their materiality? So materiality metrics can be a good tool to develop. Regulation, the coming up regulation, the notion of the EU circular economy action plan is a good is a good platform to examine where regulation will change substantially and how what kind of consequences we will face because of that. On the other hand, if the answer is yes, we do have a project, then we have to de-risk again, and one way to de-risk besides being clear on the purpose and resources and timing is also to really see whether this project is relevant, and I will show you how we will do it. And then we can go through a full business model innovation process within the time limits that we have, and what means that we can run through the lean canvas and evaluate benefits and risks and explain how the project results can be exploited through a template that I'm going to present you in a minute. So the relevance of the selected project can be self-evaluated thanks to the questionnaire, which is available on Talent LMS platform. All of you are asked to fill it in. And also this will help us provide any individual assistance during the next 10 days or 14 days. Those who will reply to the question number 5 with a no, this means, does your organization have an excellent managed transformation process in place composed by one or more projects? If the answer is no, then you can jump to the last question, okay? And then, of course, you will undertake the opportunities pathway and not the project pathway. This is in gray. There is the last question: what organization changes are needed in your view to achieve more circularity in your organization? And that will that is one little homework that we are kindly asking you to do. This is how you choose the way, and I am kindly asking you to do this as soon as possible, so we know how many of you are going one way or how many of you are going the other way, and we will be able to prepare to first to support you. Also one-on-one to the degree possible, and we will be able to prepare the final day, the final presentation day. I've promised if we will not be able to make it within like 2 hours, then we will call another day and split the presentation day into 2 days, basically into 2 sessions, better to say. Okay. So now the learning tool, the template. Actually, both groups can use this template, except that those who will answer no, we don't have a running project or a ready project on the shelf, they can use it in a shorter, very short version. Actually, let me show you. Of course, the project title. This is relatively easy, and the first thing you can use these slides. You have received this template in PowerPoint version, and you can of course use the PowerPoint just as well for the final delivery. So the first thing that you can ask, and you can yourself, and that you can bring on a slide, is why we are doing this. What drives you to this project? Christian Kleinhagen had a few more words on this, and it's really important to bring down this question to all these levels, from the planet to personal level. Why we are doing this, the next level is project framing. This gives you a chance to explain a little bit more clearly what is the purpose of the project, who are the key stakeholders, what are their roles in the value chain, who are as stakeholders who are actively involved in the project or will be actively involved. What is the time frame of the project? What is the budget? What is the risk for the company related to the project? The next level is the so-called problem solution fit. So yes, there's as Christian said, there's a clear definition of a problem needed. We can also call it an opportunity. We have to describe it with clear answers to the many whys, we have to clearly define who are the customers. Christian has said a lot on that, so I'm not going to repeat anything. He also said what is the value destroyed, right? Not just the value created. So what are the peculiarities of our proposition? Next, what are the negative impacts of resource flows at present? Because we are dealing with circularity aspects. So at every point here, when it comes to the proper solution fit, we have to clarify the circularity aspect of this opportunity. And then, of course, a short description. Next, alternative or current solution to the problem. What is this? The alternative. What is the how we can substitute the or how customers do substitute currently this problem or resolve this problem, or what will we substitute, what will be less in life because we will give something more, and how these habits will change, as we have heard. What are the obstacles on the way at different levels? Here, the obstacles, can be lined around the circular triangle at different levels or different aspects of, systemic, cultural, or transformational, or in company also. We've said something about the unique value proposition. I'm not going to go deeper into this. And as you see here, please expose the three dimensions, environment, society, and business, just as Christian has explained. Add more specifically, what linear risks is the company exposed if this problem is not going to be addressed, and what circular risks are out there if we decide to address the problem and implement the proposed solution. Those participants who are actually scouting for opportunities, they can end with 1, 2, not more than 3 project briefs, but 1 or 2 is just good enough. And you can end up here. A clear unique value proposition is okay, right? With 1, 2 is ideal, 3 is great, 1 is okay, it must be a really good one, all right? And then, of course, we go further to specific questions. We are actually walking across the lean canvas, as you may know, and I will spend a few words on lean canvas as well. So market and industry trends, what we can expect, how does this refer to our target market? What are the target segments? Who are the early adopters? Here is gains, pains, and customers. This gain that also Christian a little bit refers to. So yeah, you can use this unique value proposition canvas for that and derive these answers from there. What is the market size? What is the real size of the opportunity? And how close it is, how difficult, what is the dynamics of change that you can perceive at the very point. Next, what areas of your value chain will your solution tackle for your company? You know the story from the last time, right? What is, and try to figure out, also thanks to the CAS report and so, what is your business model type? You indicated, one, but try to think about it. Next, go to market or your use model, how your solution will be put in use. So what are the legal, regulatory, ethical aspects, intellectual property, and timing. So we haven't forgotten about competitors and pricing. We could discuss competitors at the level of market and market trends and stuff, but we've put them here, and also because price positioning is really important to determine. Partners and channels. Channels, how to reach customer. This is quite classic, but we are now talking about a complex value chain landscape. So partners are just, are indispensable. There will be partners. With whom are you traveling? The team, internal and external providers, members of the team, and actions to follow, roles, monitoring and metrics. We'll discuss this now. Financial aspects, certainly, costs, revenues, what's the difference? And where are the sources? If there are questions to the template, let me know. You can have a look at the template and write us questions if you have, if any questions pop up later on. So please examine this carefully. The deeper you can get, the better. Okay. I know it's a lot. I'm fully aware it's a lot, but it will, guide you through. It's like a questionnaire, So the lean canvas. The lean, behind this concept, there's a lean canvas, a business model. We are going to use the lean canvas because it's a little bit simpler and it's more apt to, innovative initiatives. And in a few words, a lean canvas is actually helps us demonstrate a harmony and replicability of a consistent concept. Just like, Villa Rotonda of Palladio, it is the starting point of a modern, villa even today we've got houses, and so this is a concept, which is harmonic, which is consistent, and for the relatively modern way of life for the last 500 years, and so it's consistent and it's definitely replicable. It's been rolled out in so many different ways, environments, and so it's actually a great canvas, right? So you see that we've got the lean canvas, the lean canvas here, and the way how this harmony can be traced is that we first go to this, problem solution fit. So we have to understand the pain, as we said, and we have to understand to whom it matters and who will be the first to pick up a new solution. And from there we can develop the unique value proposition and all the key features of a solution. Okay. Yes, we mentioned the obstacles. What can play against us, but also what can be unfair advantages on our side. Why can we do it better than others? IP, geographical position, tacit knowledge, many things. Partners and channels, and key metrics. Okay, so, and of course revenues can come to our notion even before metrics and cost structure, but at the end of the day we have to budget the cost and realize whether this is going to pay off. Okay. The canvas can also be used to understand better risks. So if, for example, if we examine the product level, we can focus on a problem solution, on problem solution fit, and the USP, and see whether we are measuring the right things, right? If we are talking about market, we have to find a balance between the existing alternatives and revenue streams. How fast revenues are going to pick up against existing alternatives? Is it going to be a long way, or is it going to be a fad or something third? And what is the impact on the cost? And customers, are we sure we know customers? Are we sure who's going to pick up first? And how are we going to reach them? And who is going to be with us on this customer discovery? So where are linear circle risks here? Very important everywhere. Okay, in all risk categories, even financial risks, credit risk, whatever you want. Actually, the circularity shifts everything. Okay. So circular metrics, means monitoring of activities and results related to 3 areas of sustainability, and specifically the circular KPIs. Ideally, the circular KPIs should be selected and specified according to the type of circular approach. Here I'm referring to narrowing, slowing, or closing loops of resource flows, and the stage in the value chain. Okay, the stage in the value chain we know is related to the typology that we use in this project. Okay, design, optimal use, value recovery. The metrics should be related to specific circular targets and activities and embedded within KPI scorecard based upon the 3 areas of SDGs, and should finally get us to answers how circular is my company. We said what it means, for a company to be circular, as you know. And how do we set the targets for improvement, and how do we monitor this? So this actually connects business model potential with our commitment. I would suggest 2 readings where you can, because every company is a story of its own. All right. So there are 2 readings with the latest discoveries about circular metrics. There are even more readings, and there's an overview of also tools like the CAS, and from especially in the one that is titled Circular Metrics for Business, a joint publication from so the Circular Economy and PACE network, and the WBCSD. It's another network that published actually the most complete guidebook to determine the most appropriate metrics for your company. It doesn't mean that you have to have, all of a sudden, like 50 indicators. This is not a real good scorecard. You cannot navigate a plane with too many, indicators being so crucial. So the appropriate ones should be selected and used at the appropriate stage. But things that I will refer to here and suggest you to, take into account are in part are based on these two resources. So the first thing is there are different level of indicators, right? Headline indicators, as they are called, they answer the question why we need to change our business. Okay, this is a very profound strategic question, right? And of course, we can say that we will measure the level of circularity. That means every year we will run a CAS, and we will, see how much we have improved, or we will see how much, what is the share of scarce resource that we are exposed to, or we can, see whether our sourcing is turning, more to secondary sources or less to secondary sources because it's strategic. Because let's say that we are running out of oil and we are banning the coal and so on, right? Performance indicators are the second level. We want to understand what should be changed in our value chain, right? It's a value chain question, an example, share of secondary resources running through our firm, and share of renewable energy in use. And there are process indicators. Standards, MIDA and also Giga, quite often are related to process indicators. This is the most common level of their deployment. And you can take, Giga, you can take the booklet, the ISO 1400 booklet, and I mean it's you got a playground already, And so how can we bring about this required change? What to measure, that we will fly right, okay? It's not about where we are going to fly, how much fuel we are going to consume, how fast, are we going to be punctual in every conditions, but it's, it's all the rest about the flight process, the engine level and the pressure in the cabin and many other things, that shows us whether our processes are in balance and are optimally run. With regard to circularity, okay, because of course you will also use other indicators. Of course you will use financial indicators. Of course you will want to be profitable, but it is not the only important thing in the world. Share of sustainable products in the portfolio could be one such example. In the WBCSD document, there's a specific reference to water management and the energy management with regard to circularity, and I would just want you to take a look at that, because it is relevant across the board. Water and energy, everybody is an energy user and everybody is a water user. There are very many different models that tackle this differently, and even those who are are not heavy energy users or heavy water consumers or let's say polluters or whatever, have something to do with water. What for? Certainly to identify and quantify circular opportunities and linear risks, to set a baseline and monitor progress, yes, respond to customers and external stakeholders and connect with them and, get to a common language, start value chain conversations and share priorities and cooperate, basically. It's an even of collaborative engagement, and attract new business and address new customers and so forth. Particularly, the performance and process, process indicators. What do they really measure? They measure the flows through the company, right? Resource flows. That's how we can actually decide where our improvements should happen according to the mission of the project. Okay. So finally, you can organize your scoreboard in such a way that you, of course, assign a particular indicator to one or more stages in the value chain process. And you can also indicate its circularity effect. Is it about narrowing loops? Is it about slowing loops? Or is it about closing loops? We all know what is closing loops, right? So this means that materials get back into the next use. They should never end in incinerators or in a landfill. They should find a better way, right? They should be somehow, they should have the next life. But slowing and narrowing means that we can either achieve a slower use of extraction of primary resources, material or energy, or slowing would be that we actually increase efficiency. This is typically optimal use. So we repair, we extend life, right, of our offerings. So we can do it very many more times than before. The cars, this is the classic example. Cars are used 8% of their lifetime. The rest they are parked. And if we introduce car sharing, then of course this efficiency will definitely grow. And hopefully cars will be built differently. Not every car will want to be a Ferrari, but maybe every car will want to last forever. So characteristics and customer preferences will then significantly change. I would kindly ask you to review this template and to review also the link canvas and let us know if there are any questions. The communication line is open, of course. It's email, and we will be glad to provide you any support or to that. And in the next lecture, we will start with a short Q&A session right away. So that would be all what I had to say, but now it's your turn to say something, and now it's question time, please. Any questions? Any reflections?
I have one question, Yuri.
Please.
Obviously, this canvas is to be is fit for one company needs or a company that wants to transform and change. But what about can that be applicable also if we have a value chain, like a couple of companies that would like to work on a mission, basically, based problem, or it's not so?
Yeah, of course. A value chain comes in perhaps in two typical ways. One way is that we have a project together, right? And we are actually speaking about a project. So you are not going to present the canvas at the level of the company. You're going to present the project by using the canvas, okay? Just the project. And also, across Europe, we've got a number of projects. They even financed upon the condition that we have partners in the other region, for example. So there are a number of projects where partners in the value chain are involved from the start, and they are challenged to design a project together. So in such a case, of course, we can use this template easily for this. Or we can also see a value chain as a vertically integrated situation, like one company, and we can actually break down our firm and say, okay, but we are a very vertically integrated whatever, pharmaceutical company or chemical company and energy company, and how are things changing? Maybe one part of the of our company is actually under different pressure than the other one. Just imagine companies that used to be called oil companies. They are transforming into energy companies. So they still understand customer needs very well, and they have privileged access to customers, but they may not need so much oil to satisfy these needs in the future. And so we can also use this. I hope it answers your question. Any other reflection?
So by next time we meet in a week, every participant who is interested need to prepare this kind of proposal.
Everyone should reply to the questionnaire and decide whether to work on a project that exists in the company, or whether to simply start by selecting opportunities. And this means that you should provide a short list of opportunities through this project, and fill in the first part of the template up to the unique value proposition included for 1, 2, or 3, not more than 3 identified opportunities that can turn projects in the next chapter. Those who have already worked on a project, they already have, this means that it's not that you have already had the idea before, it's a real project. So this means that you have made some analysis, why and how, and then from there you say, okay, is this really relevant? We may have a number of 30 projects, and let's pick one that has some relevance for circularity, and let's answer these questions in the question: is this relevant for us? And if you're so you should ask yourselves these questions, and if you can be satisfied with the answers, yes, actually it is relevant for the circularity, it will help us learn, and then the choice is actually very, very good, because you will have already de-risked, your expectations are actually consolidated, and your exposure has not increased substantially. You're already doing it, so you will just add these aspects into your project plan, and we will help you elaborate on the circularity aspect. So from this standpoint, you will then go through the whole template and try to provide as much information or as many answers as you can provide in the best possible way, and all this possibly in a consistent way. So the canvas comes in as a helping tool for to check your consistency, to see whether you are in harmony with all that. Okay.
Okay, for the next time, just these two.
Yeah, it is not forbidden to do everything up to the next week, and if anybody would want to present shortly, the canvas at the beginning, I'll be more than happy, because as you know, the total quality management is based on doing things twice. You first test it, and then you do it for real. So if you want to test, please, the next time you can present shortly your canvas, and we will be able to discuss. It will be much better for the candidate and for everybody else to work on a real case. And then we will discuss a little bit more the questions of how to get there. This time we are talking a lot about the x-axis of the class, right? So we are talking about how to improve or how to enhance our business model potential. The next time we will also tackle questions of viability, financial viability. So Christoph Püntmann, who is today with us, an experienced banking expert, is going to talk about financing aspects, and we will also talk a little bit about leadership, organizational issues, value chain cooperation, and things like that. So how to really, do the management of all that. And then there will be another week, and in this final week, you will be able to bring your presentation to perfection. On our side, it's to decide upon your replies whether we are going to manage it within a session of within a 2.5 hour session, or shall we actually book after the 7th of April also one more session in the forthcoming days after that, so that we could, so everybody will be able to present and have a proper question and answer time and a reasonable feedback from this learning experience. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Fine. Any other question? They are always welcome by email or so, and we will be happy to help you out. I thank you for your patience and your understanding for this half-an-hour extension, and I am going to conclude this session now. I thank you very much. Thanks again to Sebastian for his support and his initial feedback, to Micha for his digitalization avenue that he opened today, and certainly to Christian Kreinhagen for his lecture on the unique value proposition and the good debate that we have all provided. Thank you for being so active participants as you are, and have a nice evening, and see you in a week's time.